Alright, so 2-minute Tanya tidbit for today. So in yesterday's Tanya we explained that the soul has 3 garments: thought, speech, and action, which is what it uses in order to be able to do God's Torah and mitzvos. As when it thinks the words of Hashem's Torah, or it says the words of Hashem's Torah, or it does the actions of Hashem's mitzvos, that's how they become enclosed within the Torah and mitzvos, and that's how they become one with Hashem. In today's Tanya we explain that not only are these garments a lower level of the neshama, which it uses in order to express itself, but actually these garments, which are becoming one with the Torah and mitzvos, are actually becoming higher than the neshama itself. As it says in the Zohar, that that the Torah is totally one with God Himself. Now this is because the Torah is God's will and wisdom. His thoughts, His desires are expressed in the Torah. And therefore, just like we explained in the previous chapter, in Parak Beis, from the Rambam, that the Rambam says that God's thoughts are actually one with Him. As He is the knowledge Himself, so too when a person understands Torah or does Hashem's mitzvahs, he's actually enclosing himself within God Himself. And therefore these garments, which are thought, speech, and action of the Torah and mitzvahs, are much higher even than that of the soul itself, as it's totally one with God Himself. Now the Alter Rebbe asks, seemingly, how can you say that a person is understanding and dealing with Hashem's Himself, Hashem's will and wisdom? A person can't understand God. God is much, much greater than anything we can understand, anything we relate to. So how can you tell me that a person is understanding Hashem Himself? So on this, the Chachamim say that in the place that you find God's greatness, how do you see that God is truly great? The fact that He was so humble. He was willing to limit Himself, and He took this great will and wisdom that He has, which is much greater than anything that we can grasp, but He brought it down, that it should be enclosed within the physical letters of the Torah, that the words of the Torah, the words of our sages that are written in the Torah Baal Peh, they're Hashem's will and wisdom itself, but Hashem was willing to take it down and bring it to a level that we could be able to understand it, so that when a person uses his thought, speech, and action to be able to understand Torah, he's having the neshama go into God's garments, into God's thought, and therefore he's becoming enclosed within Hashem Himself. See you next time.